What's up, Totem Pole Nation? This is Lambo and Matt's World of Sports coming at you with episode 32 of the Recruiting Trail videos. As you can see in the title, Texas Longhorns. Are they back? Are they not? They look great this year, so we'll have to see. We'll see what this recruiting class can do to help them in the future. All data in this video is coming from 24/7 Sports. So if you have insight, recruits, commits, whatever, from On3, from Rivals, or any other, recruiting platform that there is, let me know in the comments. If I miss somebody, let me know. I'm not going to have everyone. Different platforms rate guys at different levels. So if you're excited about a commit in this Texas class, let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to respond down there as well. Thank you to Sideline Sports Network, as always, for the platform. And if you want to help the boys out, support the boys by getting some Totem Pole merch, the link is totempolenation.com. It is scrolling below in the ticker. Like I mentioned, this is Texas, 9th ranked class right now, 5th in the SEC next year. And that's enough, of a description from me. Let's just get into this. Throwback logos. I love them. They're going to be in here for the rest of the recruiting trail videos. The throwback logos are always the best, and this one is not an exception. Like I mentioned, the 9th ranked class of Texas football, 5th in the SEC. They have 20 commits, 3 of them being 5 stars, 14 4 stars, and 3 3 stars. We're going to start by going into their top 5 commits, starting with a 5-star wide receiver, Ryan Wingo. This guy obviously Texas was battling for this guy with damn near every other competitive Power 5, or now I guess Power 4, Power 3 school in the country. He's 6'2", 205 from St. Louis University High School in St. Louis, Missouri. 5th ranked player nationally, the 2nd best wide receiver and the 2nd ranked player out of Missouri. He also came in 3rd at the Missouri 5A state championships in the 100 and 200 meter, running a 10.55 in the 100 and a 21.31 in the 200. Now, if you don't have any insight or you don't know anything about track, that's all right. I'll explain it to you. 10.55 in the 100 is blazing, and 21.31 shows that it's not just quick twitch. He can withstand that. So down the field, breaking the defense open over the top, he's going to be a threat almost immediately as soon as he touches the field. Next up is another 5-star. He's an edge, Colin Simmons. 6'3", 225 from Duncanville High School in Duncanville, Texas. 22nd ranked player nationally, the 4th ranked edge, and the 6th best player in the state of Texas, which, if you have any recruiting knowledge or if you've watched any of these videos in the past, you know how deep Texas is when it comes to talent. A lot of states are pretty top-heavy. Top 10 guys are the ones that you want if you're a big-time school like Texas, and after that, it kind of filters out. You pick a few guys that you would see potential in, but Texas is deep down to the 50s of just talent. So the number 6 guy in the state is huge. He's listed as a linebacker, but ranked as an edge. So duality of his game on defense, for sure. He can play, linebacker as well as edge, but if he's ranked as an edge on here, I'm going to assume that's where Texas is putting him, not as a linebacker. He was picked to be on the Polynesian Bowl roster. Last year, he was the Texas 11-6A co-MVP as a junior. He was named the Dallas Morning News Defensive Player of the Year. He had 22.5 sacks, which broke the Duncanville school record, and won Texas Sports Writers Association Class 6A Defensive Player of the Year. Now, if you're not familiar with Texas high school football, let me fill you in. It's the best, all right? The guys down there that are in 5 and 6A are the most accustomed and quickest adaptability to the Power 5 level, just because those facilities down there, the talent you're playing against, is essentially a D1 football program anyways. You look at like IMG, Modern Day, all these places scattered around the country that are, big time, basically football and other sports like just a path to D1 and to the pros, that's essentially half of Texas high school football. So to be a co-MVP, an MVP, DPOY, all of that as a junior, that's huge. 22 and a half sacks last year going against Texas 6A offensive lineman is huge. So this is a major pickup for Texas's D-line going into next year. Rounding out their top three guys, which would be the 3 5-stars, is offensive tackle Brandon Baker, 6'5", 285 from Modern Day. Like I mentioned, another pipeline to D1 when it comes to basically every sport. Santa Ana, California. He's the 27th ranked player nationally, the first offensive tackle in the country, and third ranked player in California. He was on the selected to the All-American Bowl roster as well as the Polynesian Bowl roster. And that is the top 3 5-stars that they have. Next up is a 4-star running back, Jerick Gibson, 5'10", 200 from IMG. So the two schools I was using as a reference for what, high level Texas football is are where the next two recruits are coming from. In Bradenton, Florida, 68th ranked player nationally, second running back in the country, and the 10th ranked player in the state of Florida. He transferred into IMG for his junior season, and he was also recognized as a top performer by 24/7 Sports at the Elite Underclassmen Showcase just outside of Orlando. So another big pickup for this team that has, relied a little bit more on the running back with the inconsistency and more health, I should say, in the QB room. Rounding out their top 5 is a 4-star corner, Wardell Mack, 5'11", 170 from John Ehret High School in Marrero, Louisiana. Now, the national ranking drops. You heard the top 4 guys I listed. They're all top 70 guys. The number 1, obviously, being 5th, and then it's 22nd, 27th, 68th. Wardell is 237th, which still great high school football player. 20th cornerback in the country, 7th in the state of Louisiana. He flipped his commitment from Florida, and he's also a basketball player and runs track. Now, going into their depth chart, the wide receiver room will be losing. What's up, Jackson? Top 4. What do I think of the top 4 what? All right, while you type in your response, I'm going to continue here. Wide receiver room, like I said, is losing their top 3 guys to top 4 in college football playoff. I mean, right now, I think it's pretty damn accurate. Florida State is just screwed, obviously, for the rest of the year. Yeah, I hear you. They're screwed for the rest of the year, obviously, with QB1 being out. I don't know if I would change anything, honestly. Washington, I think, pretty much deserved being that 4 spot, even with Florida State, just looking at strength of schedule. And the top 3, I think, are going to remain the top 3. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan, one of them has to lose. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of them is the 4 seed, but I don't see another, one-loss team getting in over Ohio State or Michigan. So I think the top 4 right now is most likely going to be the top 4 going into the actual college football playoff. All right, so back to this. They are, like I said, losing their top 3 guys in the wide receiver room to the NFL. But there is youth behind them. They're also adding, their number 1 guy in Ryan. Like I mentioned, he's 5th nationally, 2nd wide receiver in the country, and 2nd in Missouri. That's a great addition. They also picked up a 4-star in Freddy Dubos, 6'1", 170 from Smithson Valley High School in Spring Branch, Texas. He's the 38th wide receiver in the country, as well as the 43rd player in Texas. And like I've said 100 times, 43rd in Texas, you would still be a top 15 guy in, I'd say, 75% of the states. So don't let that ranking, take away from what he's actually going to bring to this team. Moving on with the depth chart notes, Quinn Ewers expected to return at QB next season. With, Arch right behind him, obviously. I'm expecting, and tell me if you think I'm wrong in the comments or if you agree. Malik Murphy, I think he's going to transfer to a school where he will be the starter next year. I think his play this year, while it hasn't been top tier, and there's definitely been um, progress desired in his game, he has enough potential, and he's shown enough potential to be a Power Five, which I'm gonna have to get used to not saying Power Five anymore, but to be a Power Four starter in college football. So I'm expecting, if Quinn is going to stay like it is being reported right now, Arch is going to be the number 2 guy, and Malik Murphy is going to be a starter somewhere else. If you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me know. The running back room is fine. The O line room is young. The D line, most likely losing 2 guys to the draft, but they're bringing in Colin, like I mentioned earlier, and a 4-star plus 3 3-stars. 2 of those 3 stars being pretty borderline 3-4. Like they have an 89 to 88 ranking, so you need a 90 to be a 4-star. Wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year if they were bumped up to 4-star guys as well. The linebacker room is a mix of youth and experience, and they already have the necessary pieces to replace what they're going to lose. And, maybe they visit the transfer portal, but when it comes to recruiting, they have 1 3-star linebacker committed right now. Obviously, like I mentioned, the edge, Colin Simmons, is listed as a linebacker, but he's ranked as an edge. So my assumption is he will be playing edge, maybe a mix at linebacker, but if they do want to add to that room, it's going to be through the transfer portal, which is, no surprise in today's college football. The DB room is majority underclassmen, just a bunch of guys that are going to be able to play for the next 2 or 3 years. Adding Wardell, like I mentioned above, he's a 4-star, and then another 4-star being brought in, plus 3 high-level 3-stars. I mentioned a few seconds ago, a couple of the 3-stars that they have in the commits are borderline. All 3 of the 3-stars in the DB room are borderline 4-stars. And my prediction would be that they get bumped up by signing day. 10 of their 20 commits are from Texas, which is great when you look on the surface. Texas is the best, you could argue, the best, if not top 3 states when it comes to recruiting in the country. So on the surface, 10 out of their 20 commits being from Texas is huge, but they only have 1 top 40 guy from the state. Now, obviously, when you're plucking top 3 guys from, states across the country, it's not as big of a deal. But I mentioned it before, Texas Tech has all 20 of their guys from the state of Texas. Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech have better Texas-centric recruiting classes than the Texas Longhorns do. And I'm not saying that's going to be directly correlated to their success on the field, but I would say being a powerhouse, being a team that even through struggles in recent years is still regarded as one of, like the blue bloods of college football, to not control your own state when your state is as deep as Texas is a little concerning. But obviously with transfer portal, NIL, you can get players from anywhere anyways. So it's not the end of the world. It was just a little surprising to me to see that. They are also projected to get the 11th ranked player in Texas, 4-star safety Kobe Black. And that's based on 24/7 Sports crystal ball projections. But I will say that they're ranked 9th right now, right? And they're 5th in the SEC when it comes to recruiting. So they're off to a great start in, what will be their new chapter next year in the SEC. But just going off of like past recruiting classes, last year they were 3rd, 2022 5th, 2021 15th, 2020 9th, and 2019 3rd. So shit, I mean, the 2019 guys would be the leaders of this team at this point, and they're 3rd. They've only had 1 year in the past 5 classes where they're outside of the top 10, and it still hasn't led to, until this year, success on the football field. Now, obviously, you added a very highly touted quarterback in Quinn, and his play is up for debate, whether you think it's up to the level of, the $1 million man he was. He basically trailblazed NIL. He was the first guy that got like that big deal. And it's up for debate, I think, if he is completely worth all of that hype, but he's played well enough to get, talked about in mock draft situations, but he has said that he's planning on coming back. So I just wanted to mention those past classes because while this is a great class and there's so many talented guys here, this isn't new for Texas. They've had guys like this in the past. And I think that, Sark is going to have them, dialed in the future to continue to be a college football playoff contender. Obviously, next year going to 12 schools, you would absolutely expect Texas to be in there. But recruiting isn't everything when it comes to what you see on the field. Obviously, Texas A&M is in a very similar spot when it comes to recruiting, and they just fired Jimbo and are paying him $77 million to not coach. So we'll see if they can transfer it to the field. Obviously, this year they have. If Lambo was on right now, Lambo would be saying, Texas is not back, all this stuff. And right now, I think they're on the path to be able to say whenever you want that Texas is back. And this recruiting class definitely helps with that argument. We're just going to have to see, what goes on the field. Thank you, Jackson. I appreciate that. That is very nice. I get a good amount of comments that are saying the opposite, so I appreciate you when it comes to that stuff. That's all I have for the Longhorns today. I hope you enjoyed it. Send it to your buddies. Put it on the message boards if you think this was an insightful video. If you agree with anything, let me know. If you disagree with anything, let me know. And like I said at the beginning, if you have other commits, recruits, targets, whatever you want to call it, from different sites where ESPN, On3, Rivals, any of those guys that I didn't highlight that you want to see highlighted as well, just put them in the comments and I'll get to that as well. So thank you guys very much. Thank you to Sideline Sports Network for the platform as always. And if you want some merch, TotemPoleNation.com has got everything you need. Have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe.